All right. Hello, guys. So, if you are joining us live, you've already heard me say this to grab your pen and paper. Don't forget to jot down any questions as we go because I will open it up for questions at the end. If you're watching this back on the replay, then press pause and go grab that pen and paper. You're going to want it. There are a whole bunch of tips and you're going to want to write them down. So, if you don't have it, pause, no big deal, come back and finish the replay once you have your pen and paper. What I want you guys to do, first of all, is leave in the comments for me, what would you like to spend like this time thinking as you listen to me? What are you going to spend your time thinking about? Where in your life you want to release your nerves, release that nervousness, and replace it with confidence? So comment that for me. It could be, I know some of you are taking my creating meditations course. So you're thinking either the recording process or doing a live guided meditation. Some of you, it's public speaking, but it could be a job interview, dealing with difficult people, difficult conversations. Anytime that there's something new in life, we have that sense of fear and we want to be able to replace it with confidence, right? So this could totally not be related to speaking, and this will still work, a lot of these tips. So feel free to let me know. And then at the end, I want you to let me know if what we talked about was helpful for that scenario. So replay watchers in the comments, Yolanda, you've got all of the above. Me too. What am I not doing in life, right? What do we not need confidence for? Okay, so one other note, we may have to jump off and jump back on if we get over the 40-minute mark. And so if we do that, just click the same link to get back here and I will see you all again then. Okay, so let's get started. If you haven't already met me, if we're not already friends in this virtual realm, then my name is Erin Holland. I am a crystal Reiki healer. I am a manifesting coach, a meditation guide, and I'm the founder of Ivy and Light Wellness Community. And the purpose of that community is to help make wellness affordable and accessible for all. And you may have heard me say this exact statement in many of my workshops. For this, I want to tell you a little bit beyond that. Beyond that, of all things, I really am a teacher. I feel like I am here on the earth to educate people. I love sharing anything I learn, especially if it can help make somebody else's life easier. I am going to share it. How can I keep that to myself, right? So I'm also not just compelled to teach people things that I learned, but I'm actually a teacher by nature and by experience. I really thought I was going to grow up to be an English teacher, believe it or not. That was my plan. And then I decided to become a classical musician, which really ended up meaning performing. And then the rest of your day is spent teaching small children how to play the piano, right? So it's really teaching, perform in the evening. And one surprising thing that I learned as a piano teacher was that I had both little kids, tiny ones whose feet couldn't touch the ground. And then I had adults. And it was the adults who were fearful about the process of learning this instrument. The kids didn't care. Their parents sent them there and they said, learn it, and they figured they would, right? But adults, at some point along the line, we have accepted this idea that if you haven't learned it by the time you're 20 something, it's just not going to be learned. It's too late. And it's so not true. I want you to share another thing in the comments for me. What is something that you learned after you turned 30? Something that you learned to do after you turned 30. And I bet you can think of a giant laundry list of things, but I'll give you a couple of mine: skiing, rock climbing, riding a Vespa, photography, painting, jewelry making, pretty much all of the tech side of my business. If I had given in to the idea that if I didn't learn it in school, it wasn't learnable, I would not be sitting in front of you right now. We would not be having this conversation. I would not have a business. I would not be teaching you things. So it's very important, first of all, to just release that idea that new is scary and that as an adult, new is bad, right? And I plan to never stop learning or trying new things or stretching myself, but it really can be scary. It can be. And as I mentioned in the email that went out today, even though we're talking about pre-performance techniques tonight, this really applies to any time that you're fearful of failure, of being judged, of the future not living up to your expectations, right? So this works for job interviews, for dealing with difficult people, for anytime you want to confidently share your passions, your expertise, yourself, or your business. It works in parties, right? This works for any time where you're thinking about the future. You know a stressful event is going to occur, and you want to relieve stress concerning that event, and you want to go into it with confidence. These tips will apply. The reason that for the banner for this has me playing the flute, and the reason that I am here talking about pre-performance techniques as opposed to any of those other things I mentioned is because I learned all the techniques we're going to talk about through being a classical musician, through performing solos in front of an orchestra, um, playing for some of the most famous flutists in the world, playing in Europe, playing entire solo concerts from memory, and so many other incredible and terrifying experiences. And the only thing at that time that got me to the stage performing was just uh, saying I would be there, A, and B, this love of music. I had to share it. And so I was willing to do anything to get through the nerves, right? And there's one memory that popped up as I was writing the script for tonight when I was a sophomore, I think it was freshman or sophomore in college. And I was doing a performance with the Alabama Symphony Orchestra. I was playing piccolo. And the middle of the main piece had this piccolo and trumpet duet that was incredibly important to the whole thing. And I got tonsillitis. And so I laid for over a week, I just laid in bed. And every couple of hours, I would get up and I would play the solo on the piccolo in my dorm room. And then I would lay back and then I would get back up. And you could barely see through my throat. I was so swollen, but I was like, I got to do it, right? I got to make it happen. And so it's taking me back to all of those things that I learned to get through those moments where you just think like, I don't know how I'm going to do this thing, but you got to show up anyway. And all of that has been able to be applied to running a business, to being a public speaker. So I want to share that with you guys tonight. Now, people tell me all the time, you look so comfortable on camera. It must just be so easy for you. And I always have these two reactions. The first one is, believe me, it did not start out easy. If I shared you my first video that I took on my phone, propped up on a pillow with me standing on another pillow because I couldn't figure out how I was supposed to hold this camera up to do this little recording. So nervous, hated the whole process. It was not easy to do that new thing, which was recording myself, right? And the other thing is, I've always said, oh, well, I guess I get it from being a musician. I guess it comes from that practice. But I've been thinking more and more recently about the fact that it doesn't really matter where or how I learned these techniques or anything else I'm teaching. It doesn't matter where or how you learn helpful techniques. They can be shared and learned by others. And those people have different life experiences. They have something else to share with you so that we're not all having to live all of these different experiences in order to learn from each other, right? That is the beauty of sharing from your unique expertise, your unique experience. So all of us could teach a class on what you do before you public speak, right? It would be different from mine, and you may not have had as much experience as me. But what I'm going to give to you tonight is through that lens of me as a performer, and then show you how you can apply it in your own life. So, all of that said, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to share 11 pre performance tips and techniques, how I used them then back in the music days, and the ways that I've adjusted or improved them over time, especially as an educator, as a speaker, and as a YouTuber. So I'm going to skip the things that you've probably heard before about projecting confidence, right? I said releasing stress and feeling confident. We're not going to talk about body language. We're not going to talk about how you make other people feel that you're confident. That can be helpful, but it all starts with your internal energy. That's what's really visible and felt by people. So that's what we're going to focus on. How can you feel confident and how can you release stress? And then that projection of confidence comes second and to a great extent takes care of itself. So, okay, I'm checking your comments. Confidence for your business. So this is a thing where, because we compartmentalize, it's very, very easy maybe for some of us to go to a party and meet new people and have confidence. But then if we need to sell something to someone, suddenly your brain shuts down. Or some people could sell to you all day long, but if they have to make small talk, they totally shut down. And so any of these tips can be applied in any of the areas where you don't have the natural confidence. And then over time, you begin to build it, and you begin to need the techniques a little bit less, but they're always there if you need them. So that's a great point. Okay, tip number one, be prepared. Now, this is a little bit obvious. This is our most obvious one. If you're not prepared, you're going to know it, and you're going to be afraid that they're going to find out, right? So have notes for your entire talk. Have notes for the whole thing. Even if this is about writing and guiding a meditation, even the meditation, write it out. You can ad lib, you can go off script, but you know that the script is there. So you're not worried about falling all the way on your face where you just can't even think of what to say next, right? And the other thing that you can prepare is reading from the script and looking at the camera, or reading from the script and looking up at your audience. Don't just sit there and read from your script the entire thing and then show up and expect to be able to perform to an audience. You perform the way you practice, right? So if you're going to give a talk, then give a talk practicing reading from your script while looking at your imaginary audience. Above the computer in front of me here is an adorable little pot of succulents. So if I was going to practice speaking to an audience, I'd practice speaking to my succulents. If I'm going to practice speaking to people on this Zoom, I would pull out my computer and I would talk to the little green light on my computer, right? So that it's natural to do it when they're actually there. So the thing that I do now that's a little bit different is to not just focus on practicing the speech and being prepared with the written word and all that good stuff, but I practice getting back into the state of inspiration I was in when I wrote that speech. So if you've taken the Creating Meditations course, or if you've followed me for a long time, you know that I teach that you should create content from a space of joy, inspiration, whatever it is you're trying to promote. If you're trying to promote stress relief, don't be stressed when you write it. If you're trying to inspire someone, get into an inspired state before you write it. So if you've written this content to help people in that space of feeling inspired to help people, you want to be back in that space when you go to give this speech. Two reasons. First of all, you want to convey that energy to your audience. And second of all, that makes the content of your speech accessible to you. So if you wrote it in a state of inspiration, that's the vibration that it has. If you show up in a state of fear, you're over here and it's over here, and you have trouble getting to it. And it's going to be a struggle to remember what it was that you wrote. But if you get into the state where you actually wrote that script, it's going to be so much easier for it to just come flowing out of you. Okay, so that's number one, be prepared. Number two, don't panic. Now, of course, you're stressed. That's the whole point. But by don't panic, I mean, run through your presentation, if you're going to run through it, which I do recommend, an hour or two before. Okay. Then spend the last hour or the last 30 minutes focusing on relieving stress rather than panic practicing. This is the easiest thing to do. If I just read the script over and over and over and over again, right up until the minute that I press record, or that I press live on Zoom, or that I show up into the room, or while people are sitting down, panic reading your script, you are in a state of panic. You are not in the state that you want to show up to perform. That will not help you. You will not remember it based on that. So an hour or two before, practice it. Even, this is what I used to do back in the day. Anytime I had a performance, I fit an hour nap in there somewhere. I don't know if you were taught this in college, but all of the stuff that you've learned actually gets solidified when you sleep, right? So if you do an all-nighter to try to prepare for a test, you actually don't learn that information as well. It doesn't get solidified because you didn't sleep. So what I like to do is practice the presentation or practice my music, whatever, take a nap. Two things have happened now. I've solidified that information. Then when I wake up, it's like starting a fresh day. So you have less time to stress and panic than if you had just had the entire day built up of stress. So also now what I do is I meditate, right? You can meditate. I still kind of prefer to take a nap because it's just easier to totally release that stress. But I do both things often. Like today, I meditated for just a couple minutes, just really did some deep breathing before we jumped on here. But I also took a nap earlier. Listen to calming and focus music as well. Whatever's going to get you into that state, the state of inspiration, the state of focus. A lot of the stuff I teach is science based. So I need to remember terms. I need to remember these specific sentences. And so I like to get into that focus state. So there's a particular YouTube link that's concentration music. And I'll listen to that right before I go live to do a workshop. Also, your crystals and oils. So I use Valor oil almost every single time that I speak, right on my throat chakra, which strengthens your throat chakra and also gives you confidence. I've got my other favorite blend here with my clear quartz and my clarity that I use on my third eye just for focus and concentration. So I always have my tools with me. I have my techniques and then I have my tools to boost that as well. If you have favorites that you use for inspiration, focus, concentration, confidence, keep those with you. Have them in a little bag that you carry with you to your place that you're doing this, or keep them in the room where you record. If you don't have any particular favorites yet, then I have two recommendations for you. If you tend to get anxious, stressed, hyper, overthinking, then the blend that I would recommend is Blue Lace Agate and Stress Away. So both of these are rollers that I made that are in the shop, particularly for these things. So Blue Lace Agate and Stress Away with the affirmation, I am cool, calm, and collected. I've got this. I'm cool, calm, and collected. I've got this. So that's bringing your energy down. It's bringing you down from the hyperspace into the calm space, right? If it's the opposite, where you're timid and you want to be able to speak with volume, project that confidence, reach the back of the room, show up like an expert, right? Then it would be moss agate and valor. So valor is what I've got, right? And then with moss agate in there, I have confidence in myself and my dreams. My success is here and now. It's a little bit like a power pose, right? I have confidence in my success and my dreams. My abundance is here and now. I have confidence in myself and my dreams. My abundance is here and now. So you're prepared. You're not panic practicing. You're not reading this over and over. You're not playing the hardest pieces of the music right before you perform. You're not doing any of that stuff that's going to trigger fear. 3 is the opposite side of this coin. You also do not want to ignore stress. Okay. So if you pretend it's not there, then what you're doing is giving your body no way to process it until the moment where it can't take it anymore. So I made this mistake once and I will never do it again. In middle school, I was auditioning for some band thing and everyone else was stressed. And I thought, hey, I'm not stressed. This is fine. I'm confident. So I just ignored any feelings of stress, got into the room in the middle of playing, like a mental breakdown was just like, I am terrified. Now my body is literally having to process stress in the middle of playing instead of everybody else who'd been processing it before they entered the room. So do not ignore it because there's a point at which it might come out. You'd rather it come out now before you get on stage, right? So that was then. Now what I do is a little bit more mature, a little bit more aware. I will recognize this fear or this stress, and then I will purposely release and replace it. So if I have fear of going and speaking to someone, speaking on a stage, recording something, I will say, I recognize this fear. I release fear, which no longer serves me in a positive and productive manner. And then I'll choose its positive opposite. The opposite of fear is excitement. excitement that it will go well, excitement that you will learn something, excitement that you'll have a great time at my talk, right? So I release fear, which no longer serves me in a positive and productive manner. I choose excitement. I believe in excitement. I manifest excitement. So I'm seeing, recognizing, accepting this fear, and then I'm choosing what to do with it, right? So don't ignore it, choose how to use it. Number 4, warm up. So, classic music thing. You show up, you're going to play, you're going to perform, and you have to warm up your flute, warm up your lungs, warm up your body. You do not warm up by playing the entire concert. You do not warm up by playing the hardest parts. You warm up by doing the things that are going to set your foundation. You warm up by playing the slow parts, the easy parts, doing your scales, holding long tones, right? So when you're going to go perform, going to go speak to people, you warm up by reading through a couple paragraphs, right? Just enough to get your voice going. Or you talk to people who are in the audience who have come to see you just to get your, move past that wall of silence to speaking publicly. Speak to the people who are participating first. You can also, so instead of doing like the entire thing, just do a couple paragraphs, or like playing the easy part of it, you could do the easy part, which would be your introduction of yourself, right? Hi, my name is Erin Holland, crystal Reiki healer, meditation guide, manifesting coach, and owner of Ivy and Light Wellness Community. You can just say that sentence over and over again just to hear your own voice, right? So now what I do beyond just hearing my own voice speaking these words is to actually do some sound healing, to warm up my voice, my diaphragm, and to ground me, to help to release some of that stress. And I already showed you that I use Valor on my throat chakra to strengthen my throat chakra and give me a clear speaking voice. But just like I would if I was a singer, I will actually tone pitches so that I can strengthen my diaphragm, strengthen my voice, get myself ready, and then also ground. So we're going to do this together. I can't hear you because you're on mute. So make whatever noise you want to, but I'm going to make noise and you get to hear the hilarity of it. I will sit here and I will try to hum or produce the lowest sound that I can. So this doesn't have to be loud, but as low as I can go. So do that just a couple times with me, just the lowest pitch that you can create. You can hum it as softly as you want to, but the bigger it is, the better it is. And feel how it vibrates in your chest and how it vibrates in your lungs and your abdomen. And breathe in really deeply. So you're warming up your voice, but you're like, it's impossible to do that and not calm down. Physically impossible because you're vibrating your entire body and you're breathing deeply and slowly. So another thing you can do then is hum a pitch that is around your throat chakra that you feel in your throat. So when I'm producing that sound, I feel it very much in my throat. That will warm my throat up as well. There is a practice that I'd like to do that goes through the entire chakras. And I'm thinking of doing a workshop soon on sound healing. So if this seems weird, but you're curious about it, definitely let me know in the comments now or in the replay, because I wrote that workshop and I think I'm going to do it soon to show you guys how I do that process so that you don't feel silly doing it, but you feel like confident that it's helping you. Okay. So literally warming your body up for this process, for speaking clearly, for speaking out. Next thing is number 5, be comfortable. So if you're sitting like I am, I'm sitting cross-legged, I took my shoes off, I'm wearing shorts, be comfortable. Wear clothing that you're going to be comfortable in. And this I learned the hard way as well. If you don't practice wearing your high heels, then you perform a concert in high heels, it is not going to go well. Your diaphragm is different. Your throat is positioned different. Your spine is positioned differently. The same is for speaking. Wear the shoes you're going to wear. Practice standing or sitting. And then wear clothes that make you feel good. So now, a thing that I've learned to do is don't wear clothes that look professional just because they look professional or just because they look nice on you. If they're going to make you be thinking about, do I look nice? So, we all have those clothes, like they're tight or they're low cut or they're too long or they're something. And you're constantly thinking about your clothes. You thought you were going to go be confident because you look cute. And now you spent the whole time worrying how you look or picking your skirt up off the ground. That is going to distract you and potentially your audience from your message. They're not here to see your dress. They're not here to see your shoes. They're here to learn from you or to get whatever that experience is that you're there to give them, right? So forget about all of that stuff and just wear whatever is comfortable and presentable in a way that's going to let you focus on that actual experience. And this goes for parties too. Don't wear something that is you're going to be worried about how you look the whole time. I have discovered that I have a lot more fun and people like me a lot more if I'm just comfortable when I show up to an event. So that's the social part of this versus the, strict performing part of this. But I also wear my protection crystals. So this is one of my favorite ones, my lapis lazuli, obsidian, and labradorite, and my lapis lazuli earrings. If you watch my playbacks of my webinars, you will notice this in almost all of them. I have another one that is smoky quartz, sunstone, and carnelian. And those are the two that I wear when I'm public speaking because I want to have my own energy, be solid in my energy and send it out rather than worrying about the energy that's coming back to me. So as somebody who is highly sensitive, it's just much more, I can have a lot more confidence when I know my energy is protected than if I'm sensing everything that's going on around me, right? So all of those things allow you to be comfortable to give your best performance. Number 6, this is so important, and I have never heard anybody else say it. So if you've heard someone say it, good on you, because I haven't. Trust your audience. Remember that your audience wants you to succeed. They literally showed up to enjoy this experience with you, whether it's coming to hear you play music for them or teach them something or entertain them, or it showed up to your party or invited you to their party. They're here, or showed up to your store. They're here because they're interested in purchasing something. They want you to succeed. They want to have a good time. So they are on your team. They're on your side. And even if you make a mistake, they want you to recover. As soon as you make a mistake, they haven't turned on you. They're not suddenly secretly wanting you to fail because you've made a mistake. They're still on your side. Remember, you're here to help them have a great time. So the best thing that you can do is trust them that they also want to have a great time. So what I do is I take it a step further and I engage with my audience. So at the beginning, I tell you to get your paper and pen. I have you comment, what do you want to learn from this? I have you tell me something that you've learned after 30, right? All of these times when I'm speaking to you as an audience member, engaging you, I'm doing that to solidify that trust, to solidify that we're on the same team, that we both want to have a good time. And I'm encouraging you to enjoy yourself and to really enter into the experience, right? So trust your audience. And then the other part of this, another thing I've never heard people say is trust yourself. Okay. So the audience is on your team. Be on your own team. Want yourself to succeed more than you have fear. And the way that I learned how to do this, I don't know where I picked this up. I think it just happened and I realized what was happening. I found something that was harder than music, that was harder than classical flute. And I threw myself into that thing so that made music easier. For me, that was the gym. I'm not a gym lover. I don't like exercise. Push-ups are hard. Sit-ups are hard. The weird machine where you go like this with your legs is hard, right? But if I pushed myself in the gym, and then I went back to practice in the music studio. All of a sudden, that was so easy. I was in my element. I was like, I've got this. Concerto, no problem, right? Because that gym, going to the gym, doing yoga, riding my bike, all that stuff was harder for me as a musician than doing music. But I didn't care so much if I failed at it. So it wasn't as high stakes for me. So I could really, really push myself and then not have the fear there, right? But then when I came back to music, it was easier. The thing that I do now is that that builds on that is I find things that are difficult and I go out and do them. Okay. So let's say rock climbing. I've taken up rock climbing and it's physical activity and it's problem solving. So you're trying to get to the top of this wall, right? Either with no what do they call it? Where there's no rope. So there's a fear element there, or someone's belaying you. So there's a trust element. So when you're doing that and you're trying to figure out how to get to the top and you're frustrated that you're not getting there and you're exhausted, what I've learned to do now is to focus on my breathing and to focus on being calm. That's pushing me in two ways. It's pushing me to do something that's more difficult than public speaking or more difficult than whatever it is you're here to learn about. And it's also teaching me how to be calm in a difficult situation. So now, if I can be calm in a hard thing, when I come back to this, which I'm more comfortable with, of course I'm going to be calm because my brain at that highest stress point has learned to be calm. And your brain will always react at the hardest thing. So how about give it a harder one so that the thing that you're doing is a less difficult one and it will perform even better. So I would love for you to comment what's something that you are interested in doing but haven't done that's really difficult, or something you can think of that's like, oh, for me that's this, for me that's learning to record, or for me that's learning an instrument, or whatever it is. Think of like a hobby you could take up that will push you to move through that adult resistance of I can't learn or I can't do this, so that when you come back to your performing, to your speaking, to your selling things to people, that will be easier. All right. So trust your audience and trust yourself. Build trust in yourself that you can do difficult things, you can respond calmly, and you can succeed. Number 8, start easy. So when you perform, you get up there, it's your solo performance. You are not going to do Flight of the Bumblebee first thing off the bat. You're not going to do your most flashy, fancy, the most notes in it piece at the beginning. You're going to play your easiest piece. You're going to ease your way in. And that's for several reasons. One, you warm up the audience and then you give them something great at the end. Two, you warm up yourself physically, your lungs, your fingers, your embouchure, your body, all that stuff, right? And you are able to release the nerves during that easy song so that when you get to the difficult part, you've processed the nerves of being on stage. And now it's just concentrating on doing the hard piece. So, how does that translate into speaking? Now, what I do is I will have these icebreaker moments at the beginning. I will start with something easy, like saying, grab your pen and paper, like chatting with you, how's your week going, right? Asking you questions to get you engaged is not nearly as difficult as trying to remember everything I was going to say and communicate as clearly as possible. I will also always start with an introduction of myself and tell you a little story, because guess what? I'm very confident saying the same 5 sentences about myself that I say in every workshop, right? It's very easy. I say it all the time. And if I'm telling you a story about my life, a story about my past in my music career, that's easy because it's a memory. It's built in there. So start with something easy and then you work up the confidence and the connection with your audience and the ability to get into the more difficult part, which is all of this amazing content that you're here to give them. If we want to talk about this from a sales perspective, Yolanda, you mentioned wanting to have more confidence in your business. Have some easy icebreaker questions for customers. Connect with them. Get to know them a little bit better. Tell them something that you love about this thing in general, or about the product, or about your life, or how it's helped you. Do the easy stuff first before you work your way so that now you're more comfortable when you talk about the value proposition of your product, right? Don't just go from hi, my name is Yolanda. Here's what this product can do for you. You can ease your way in. Do it like a human, because that's how it's meant to be done, right? But we sometimes, our brain just loses track and doesn't know that it should just do it the normal way. All right. Number 9, present on what you know. So we can be tempted to stretch ourselves and teach or perform the most, the latest, the newest, the hardest thing, because we want to impress people, because we want to show up and we want to give them the absolute best that we possibly can. But then we run the risk of making it harder for ourselves and not being as calm and confident and as much of an expert. So I have a tendency to want to do this. I love to learn and I love to share. So my tendency is to learn the most difficult thing possible or learn the newest thing possible and turn right around and teach it. But it will be very hard for me to be an expert on it a day after I learned it, right? So what you do is you teach on things you know well. That will always be more impressive and more helpful for people than teaching on the farthest thing that you can possibly teach, right? So now what I do, because I love to share and it's so hard to stop myself from sharing immediately, is I will share in other ways before I teach a class on it. So if I want to teach about quantum physics, and there is a lot in there to teach about, I'll write a blog post. I'll mention it a couple of times in the group. I'll talk about it with my coaching clients. I'll talk about it in conversation. Then I write the script because I've practiced it. I am now an expert by doing it in all of those various other methods that were easier, smaller, less high stakes, right? So you can share in other ways and then work up to that. You can practice selling things in an Instagram post, work your way up to a blog, work your way up to a video, right? So present on what you know and then learn more and continue that process. Then you can teach on that once you know it well too. So these are all of the techniques that I gained through being a classical musician. And as I mentioned before, you have your own unique experiences. You might be able to write a list of some suggestions on this topic, and it might be different from mine because of your own personal experience, or you might have gotten to the same realization from a different area. But I'm going to go through them really quickly for you, and then talk about how it applies. So be prepared. Don't panic practice. Don't ignore stress. Warm up. Be comfortable. Trust your audience. Trust yourself. Start easy and present on what you know. All right. So let's say that you're taking my Creating Meditations course and you're fine leading guided live meditations. That doesn't bother you. But when you have to hit record, you get terrified. You want to have a YouTube channel or a podcast, and the idea of hitting record is just absolutely terrifying to you. So how does it apply to that? When you record, you're perceiving the audience, right? You're perceiving that they're there. So the preparation is fairly similar. You have a script, and very, very importantly, get into that state of mind that you were in when you wrote the script, right? So you get into an inspired state of mind to write your script, and then you get back into that inspired state of mind before you record. Now, if technology is your Achilles heel, set up the camera, set up the technology, then go get into the inspired state, then come back. Don't get into your inspired state and then get frustrated with Restream or Zoom or whatever it is. Don't get all set up and then get frustrated right before you go. Set up, then go get inspired, right? And then if you feel that you're nervous, and if you start to feel nervous, you start to mess up, you're recording. There's nobody there. Take a breath, right? Pause, breathe in. Play some music, do whatever you need to get back into that zone, right? Do the sound healing, the humming that I talked about before, whatever you need to do. You may see, I record on iMovie sometimes or Loom, and you can see the ticker, right? Like on Loom, there's a 5-minute ticker and it's just clocking you down, clocking you down, clocking you. But guess what? That timer has nowhere else to be. It's an inanimate object. You can take all the time that you want and you can edit it out later. So the energy is everything. Don't press forward when you've lost the energy. Pause, regain the energy, and then move forward, right? So if you need to, when you're recording, you can also record in chunks, record in smaller chunks. The part that, however long you can record and be inspired, break it down into those chunks, right? Energy is everything. Okay, how does this apply to social situations? So have your tools and your rituals. We talked about crystals, we talked about oils, we talked about affirmations, we talked about clothing, we talked about breathing techniques, we talked about so many different things you can do. I love, love, love this necklace. I feel so much better when I'm wearing it. But what if I A, forget it, or B, get into a stressful situation? Suddenly they're going to ask me to speak, and I'm not wearing it. This needs to not be the only thing between me and a panic attack, right? So you have your tools, but also your techniques. You need to have some that are you, that are going to go with you everywhere, like breathing to recenter, right? Like doing the sound healing, saying your affirmations. It's your body, so it goes with you everywhere. So that's really important to have those to rely on. You can say, I'm cool, calm, and collected. I've got this. I'm cool, calm, and collected. I've got this. I'm cool, calm, and collected. I've got this, right? So have your tools and your techniques, but keep ones that you know you can use anywhere, no matter what. And you can say that in your head. Someone's walking up to you at the party. I'm cool, calm, and collected. I've got this. I'm cool, calm, and collected. I've got this. It works every time. All right. Keep jotting down your questions if you have them. Let's say if you have a particular life situation that you want to know how some of this applies to, let me know what that is. The comments here or in the comments afterwards, and I'll come back and I'll respond to that. But I want to share two more tips, two things I was not good at back in the day. I knew about, but just was not good at until I learned meditation and releasing techniques. So the first thing is release the past. If you have a bad experience, right, that can really, really make it hard the next time that you want to get out there and perform. If you just totally tank, or if you have a sales interaction and it goes awfully and you just know that you screwed that up and they would have bought it, but then everything that you said was just making them not want it. It's going to be hard to go back and do that. You record, everything goes wrong. Your sound doesn't take. You've recorded for 20 minutes and now there's no sound. You need to be able to let that go. And it's not easy, especially if you really care, right? So I really, really recommend for this using a technique that I have learned recently, which is aroma freedom technique. It's using breathing techniques, guidance, and aromatherapy to help you release anything from your past, stuck emotions, traumas. And it has really helped me to release some past failures in business when you're starting out and you do things and you put a lot of effort into it and you don't get much out of it, releasing that so I can grow my business. Or particularly in this case, releasing that, the feeling that, well, I guess my music career didn't happen. And that really stinks. And I wish I could apply music to my life, but it's just too late, right? Releasing that feeling and seeing how music can be part of my life, music can be part of my brand. So, a giant thanks and shout out to Crystal Gilbert that I do AFT with every week. And you may know her from the Heal and Grow group. She created for us an intro to AFT course that's on the website. If you want to learn more about it, I'll put the link below, and I'm also going to pop it in the comments here. But that course will help you to be able to do it for yourself instead of having to rely on a one-on-one constantly with somebody else. It is incredibly helpful to let go of that past and move forward with a fresh start. The last one, the 11th one, is to see the future. Okay, to be able to put yourself in that future position of success when the performance goes well, when the sales talk goes well, when the social interaction goes well, when the difficult conversation goes well. To put yourself in the future, see it going incredibly well, experience it, feel it, taste it, touch it. That is something I discovered that there are different types of anxiety. This is about 5 years ago. And that one of them is future anxiety. And as soon as I read that or heard that, I thought, That's me. That's me. You think of all the awful things that could be happening any moment, right? And so when you're a performer, just thinking of all the awful things that could go wrong, that was my Achilles heel. So being able to see myself into the future, project myself, visualize myself into the future, and see the success, or even 5 minutes past the success, was really, really helpful in starting a business. I wish I'd had it when I was a musician, but I actually created, for a client, I we did a live meditation together to help her see her future success, and then I took that inspiration and created an entire meditation. It's available now on Insight Timer, so I'll put that link up. But then tomorrow morning, I'm posting it to YouTube. So for all of you guys who prefer YouTube, it will be there soon for you as well. So you can listen to that meditation, and I actually transport you into that future and give you the experience of being there, then bring that feeling back with you so that you can attract that future success into your present. So you can actually manifest that happening. So, what I would love to do is allow you guys to ask me any questions that you have. And then what I really would love for you to do is to take this moment to use these techniques and then record a short video, like a 2-minute video, and post it into the Heal and Grow group. I'm going to challenge all of you watching live and watching on the replay to go live or record a video, however you prefer to do it, into the Heal and Grow group, introduce yourself, and then share anything that you're interested in for just 2 minutes. So that easy part, right? Hi, I'm Sandy, and I really love yoga, and I'm going to tell you 5 things about yoga. Just a couple of minutes so that you can practice getting into that space, and then from that space, pressing record, or from that space, pressing live. Okay. So now I am going to end the recording. And so if you are watching this back on the replay, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free, any questions you have, to leave those in the comments below, and I will get back to them as soon as possible. And then I will hang out here with those who are live, and we will chit chat about their questions. So love you very much, guys. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.